What is going on, Senpai Squad? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today we've got the review for episode 89 of Boruto. Now, jumping straight into it, as always, I asked you guys on the community tab on my YouTube channel as to what you guys made of the episode, what you rated it, and a whopping 57% of you out of 101 voted that this was a great episode. And honestly, yet again, it feels like I'm saying this every week now, which is a shock considering how this arc has a history of peaking and then just dropping again. But I have to agree, I thought it was another great episode. Now, a lot of people weren't fans of the first half or the first majority of the episode. They thought it was quite boring, quite slow, not much progression. And personally, I disagree. I enjoyed the entirety of the episode. I thought it was well paced. I thought there was interesting pieces scattered throughout the episode that kept me interested throughout the entirety of it. For example, like the interaction between Konohama and Mitsuki, what was going on with Boruto and Sarada and Kirarira, and then you had obviously what was going on with Mitsuki and Q. I thought the entirety of the episode, although I don't think it was as good as the previous weeks or the weeks before that, I do still think it was an incredibly solid episode, at least judging by this arc's standards, because usually we'd get a couple of really good episodes and then following on from that we'd get a couple absolutely like garbage episodes. We've had our couple of good episodes, and if this was meant to be our garbage episode, then carry on, because I thought it was fantastic nonetheless. Talking of the Boruto versus Sarada fight, now obviously they were under a genjutsu / puppet type thing going on from Kirara, and it was a sword fight, a puppet sword fight, and that got me quite excited because kenjutsu sword fights in Naruto / Boruto are usually always really good. They're some of my favourites, whether it be Sasuke using his sword or Orochimaru, like when he was fighting Log. I thought that was all just magnificent. I was hoping something a little bit like that in this episode, although it may not have lived up to such high levels as the fights and characters that I mentioned earlier. I still thought it was an interesting fight. It was good. Part of me, because a lot of people were very, very annoyed that Sarada did not unlock her second Tomoe during the episode, during that fight. And at first thought, I thought, no, there's no way she would have awakened it within that fight at all. But as I started to think more about it, I can understand why it didn't happen, and I'm not mad that it didn't happen either. I couldn't be less bothered, to be honest, but I thought to myself, I was trying to picture it in my head that it would have been a really cool time for her to get her second Tomoe, because obviously they were under the genjutsu, and Sarada put herself under a genjutsu in the reflection of Boruto's sword, because Boruto went in for the final kill to essentially decaffeinate her, and within the reflection of the sword with her Sharingan, she put herself under a genjutsu to essentially wake her up so that she could move freely and then wake up Boruto. And I thought, because there was that really awesome shot of when she activated her Sharingan in the reflection of the sword and cast a genjutsu on herself, and I was just thinking, imagine if in that slow-mo moment, when the beautiful shot, by the way, when the Sharingan activated in the sword, imagine if you just saw a second Tomoe appear. She's in a life-threatening situation, she's about to be killed by Boruto, bang, a second Tomoe appears. Like I said, I'm not mad that it didn't happen, but I think it would have been a really, really cool scene with all the slow-mo and how great the art style looked. So it would have been something I would have liked to have seen, but it didn't happen. Am I going to think it's going to happen in an anime original arc? I really don't know. You'd think something as big as at least a third Tomoe anyway. Maybe a second Tomoe can appear in an anime only arc, but third Tomoe, you're getting towards, you'd expect it to be within manga territory because it's quite a big deal. Currently in the manga, as far as we're aware, she's only got one Tomoe, but she's not used her Sharingan really in the manga in God knows how long, so we'll see what's going on with Sarada's Sharingan, because a lot of people get very annoyed that she's really falling behind. That's what a lot of people say, because she's only got one Tomoe. We'll see where it goes. But I just want to comment that, because I know a lot of people are very annoyed that she didn't get it. I didn't think she'd get it, but I can agree it would have been a good moment for her to get it. Now, going back to that Kirara fight between Boruto and Sarada, there was a little bit of plot armor potentially, if that's the way you'd like to word it, and I'm not kind of using that as a reason to downplay the episode because it's a shonen. Plot armor is always, you can't find me a shonen that doesn't have some form of plot armor because it has to exist in them, because shonen always tend to end in a happy ending. You know, it's not a seinen or anything like that. Plot armor will always be a thing, and what I mean by that is I did think it was slightly plot armory how Kirara just left Boruto and Sarada. You know, she could have just finished them off. She came up with the thing, was like, oh, you know, I want you to keep playing, stuff like that. It's kind of like, really, you can tell it's quite clearly plot armor. They needed a way to get Kirara away from them so that they could wake up and come back out of nowhere when Kirara's like, what, you should be under my genjutsu, you know, that type of thing. It's normal, it's common. That's why I'm not really thinking about it as much as a downside to the episode, because like I said, it's to be expected pretty much. But I did want to comment on it, see if you guys had the same type of idea if I did that. It was slightly plot armory and maybe a little bit of BS, bit of an aspel, but it doesn't bother me at the end of the day, not that much anyway. Mitsuki betraying all of the Akuta and Q kind of shocked me and kind of didn't, because I think there was a certain point where it became very, well, not very, but pretty evident that Mitsuki had a mission of his own and there wasn't something quite right. He definitely wasn't 100% on the Akuta side, and I did expect him to backstab them, but at the same time I didn't expect him to do it in the way he did, literally backstabbing Ku straight through the chest with an attack, essentially just what would have usually killed him, but he's an Akuta. I didn't expect him to do it, not in front of Ku, Kirara, Sekia, you know, I didn't expect it to happen in front of them all, not in that moment, but it was really good. It was really good, and I absolutely loved it. It's quite evident that this is Mitsuki's true will. Now, as vague as that is, we still have no idea at all what that actually means. He constantly keeps saying, this is my will, this is my will, this is my will. It's everybody's will in this goddamn arc, but hopefully we'll get a bit of a clearer explanation on it all, on what was going down with Mitsuki in the next couple of episodes, as this arc does pretty quickly now, actually getting towards its climax. It's not just the second Tomoe that people are quite mad about in this week's episode, and that was the fact that a lot of people were thinking that Konohamaru should have been involved in something in this episode. Now, he was involved in blowing up all the kind of like slave Akuta. I don't really know what the name would be, but he essentially just shut down their plantation that was creating all the Akuta clone type things. And he had a small confrontation with Mitsuki where they basically came to an understanding with each other as to what each of them had to do. Konohamaru fully understood. I really like that scene. It showed that he didn't let his hatred towards Orochimaru get in the way of his love for Mitsuki as a member of Team 7, which is something which I was a bit skeptical about, because we knew Konohamaru lost his shit when he found out that Mitsuki was Orochimaru's biological/unbiological son. You know, he wasn't happy about it, but it clearly shows in this episode that he's willing to look past that fact about Mitsuki and to look at Mitsuki as Mitsuki, not as Orochimaru 2.0. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, a lot of people were very annoyed with Konohamaru because he didn't show up, basically. People saying he really should have stopped the fight between Boruto and Sarada, and I have to 1000% firmly disagree on that point. No reason whatsoever for him to separate the fight between Boruto and Sarada. Firstly, he's on his own mission. He's not on a mission to save Boruto and Sarada, although I'm sure he'd love to do it. His mission is to find out what the hell is going on in the village and to sneak in unnoticed. Now, do you think if you're sneaking in unnoticed somewhere, the best course of action is to completely jump into the middle of the village and separate a fight and cause attraction to yourself and become the centre of attention? No. Secondly, Konohamaru's only just got there. In a matter of minutes, how the hell is he meant to understand the current situation, know what's going on with Boruto and Sarada, and even know where Boruto and Sarada are? So I have to 100% disagree. Like, I agree in the fact that I think Konohamaru is a very, very lackluster sensei, but that fight between Boruto and Sarada, literally nothing he could do. If you want to blame Konohamaru for that, then blame Kakashi on letting Naruto and Sasuke go into the Valley of the End and fight it. Because, you know, not everything, the sensei is not meant to have a literal tracker on his students and follow them everywhere he goes. Sometimes he has to put his mission first, and that's exactly what Konohamaru did, and I completely respect it and understand it, and I should probably end it there because I'm going to be ranting on about Konohamaru and stuff if I go any further. I really felt sorry for Sekie in this episode because Sekie, I think, has become a fan favourite in this arc. Everyone's kind of, I think without him, we wouldn't have warmed to the, maybe warmed isn't the correct word, but we wouldn't have felt as invested in the Akuta as we actually are. Sekie is a fantastic character. I think he's been written really well, and I felt very, very sorry for him. He's a parallel, more or less an exact parallel of what Boruto is in this arc. And, you know, he wants to be friends with Mitsuki, he wants to stay with Mitsuki forever, and that's literally, like I said, he's a parallel, he's a contrast to Boruto because he's exactly what Boruto is, just on the other team essentially. He's the bad guy version of Boruto, but from his perspective you feel sorry for him because he's not doing anything bad, he's just doing what Boruto's doing. But obviously because we're on the other side, we view him as the bad guy. And I felt very sorry for him when essentially Mitsuki snaked on him. I think the fight between those two is going to be absolutely fantastic. I can't wait for it. It's going to be so damn good. The words that Mitsuki spoke in this episode when he was saying along the lines of, just because you have a heart, it doesn't make you human. I thought that was a fantastic quote, extremely, extremely deep. I mean, because it's true. It's a true quote. I mean, you got people in the real world, you know, we've all got hearts, we've all got human hearts, but we're not all human. There's some scumbags out there, some people which you look at them and you think, you aren't human, you're not normal, you're a monster. And that's kind of like what Mitsuki was alluding to, you know, you may have a heart, but it doesn't make you human. And I do wonder how those words would have rested within Sekie. And like I said, I just can't wait for next week's episode between those two because it's going to be so damn good. Also, last but not least, Tsuchikage's back. Hey, yeah. I don't care. I'll be 100% honest. The title of Kage nowadays has completely lost any validity that it had. Honestly, someone could tell me, oh, he's the Kage or she's the Kage, and I'd be like, I could not care less. You know, Kage is no longer a signal of strength or anything like that. And I'm not saying it was in the first place, but you have to admit that nowadays, Kages, they don't really mean that much, do they? I mean, if you're not Naruto or Gaara, do you really matter? Unfortunately, no, you don't. Personally, I'd like to see them maybe put a bit more effort into Kage. Kind of give the Kage the feel that they had way back in Part 1, Naruto and Shippuden. But do I see that being the case? No. The writers have so many other things that come first to focus on ahead of the Kages that the Kage, unfortunately, I just think they're going to get left behind. And although it sucks, I can see why they're doing it, and there's not really much I can say other than that. But guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Leave a like on it if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're not already to become a member of the Senpai Squad. Leave all of your thoughts and opinions on this episode and the arc in general in the comment section down below. And I will see you guys in another video. But until then, peace.